Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and welcome to another reading vlog. I am currently sitting on the floor in the kitchen because the lighting in my bedroom is horrible, so I am going to do the intro in here. The book that I just finished reading was The Friendship Equation by J.R. Gray. I was really excited for that book, but I didn't actually enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So the whole point of the book was that Vance and Hardin have been best friends for so many years, and they're both swimmers, so I was really excited for an athlete romance. I feel like I do not read very many books at all where the main characters are swimmers. It's generally like football or hockey or something, so this was something new for me. Now Vance didn't want to go to college a virgin. He didn't really know how to get around that until his best friend, who is straight, was like, hey, I'll give you a hand. And they thought they might have to keep it on the down low since Hardin's dad was unofficially going to run for president. But then there was all this talk about Hardin not wanting to keep them a secret, and you know, would that tear them apart and all this kind of stuff. And I just feel like that is not really what we got at all. I really don't like giving negative reviews because I don't want to sound like I'm being too harsh, but I also want to be honest because I don't want to rave about a book that I didn't necessarily enjoy. If you want to read my full Goodreads review, I'll leave the link to my Goodreads down below. But I pretty much just said, you know, I didn't really connect with the main characters at all, which made it rather hard to sink into the story. It felt like we didn't really have that transition from best friends to, you know, friends with benefits to lovers. It was just kind of, they just dove like straight in the deep end. I never really knew where we were with their relationship because it just felt like nothing was really discussed. It felt like there was such a severe disconnect from like me as a reader to them as characters, and I was just kind of along for the ride. I didn't really care what happened at that point. I was just like, I'm just tagging along to see how it goes. That was a tad disappointing, and I was really excited as well, especially after the first few chapters, because you got to see a bit of an insight into Hardin and Vance's relationship. I thought it was really good to read about two friends who are that comfortable in themselves and in their friendship that they can be affectionate without it being weird. I feel like we don't have a lot of books like that, or at least I haven't managed to read any that have friendships like that, and so it was really nice to see. But I feel like that didn't really go anywhere because we didn't actually get to see any of that. We just heard about it secondhand, and then they were straight into like the whole friends with benefits thing, and I was like, I wish we could have seen a little bit more of that instead of just being told about it. I don't want to rant too much about it because I've already finished it, and this vlog is not about that book. Anyway, I have decided on a new book that I would like to start reading in this vlog, and that is Sink. Oh god, pronouncing the name and the author of this book is for some reason ridiculously hard. I think it's called Sink, and the author is, I think it's Zyle Eleven. I think I just butchered that. I added this book to my TBR a little while ago because I saw a lot of people on Facebook were raving about it, but I was never in the mood for it, and now I am. And I'm really keen. I'm very happy that I waited until I was in the mood for this book. So as far as I know, we have our main character Eli, who because of some abuse in his past has a very severe aversion to touch, and he's currently in his freshman year of college, and he's struggling a little bit, and even more so when he starts to hear this voice in his head. And he's kind of struggling between, does he try and figure out if this voice belongs to an actual person to prove that he's not going insane, or will that just make him feel more unstable if he comes to realize that it's all in his head? That's kind of all we get in terms of the blurb, but the tropes are what sealed the deal for me in this book. So I'm just going to read straight off Goodreads at this point. We have fated mates. Already, that is what made me add this book to my TBR. I'm obsessed with books that have fated mates. I'm really happy. We also have touch aversion turned to bliss when touching your mate. Oh yes, I'm really excited. There also are a couple of trigger warnings for this book though. So we have trauma-related mental illness and then past mentions of childhood trauma. So just be aware of that going into this book. I don't know how big of a role that plays because I haven't started it yet, but I have heard nothing but good reviews about this book, and everything I've seen on Goodreads so far has always been like 4 or 5 stars or somewhere in between, and I'm so excited to get stuck into this. It has a rating of 4.12 on Goodreads, so fingers crossed it's gonna be good. I've had such a good reading month so far. Like, the Friendship Equation was the only kind of not so good book that I've read so far this month, because I started it by rereading both the Temptation series and the Confession series by Ella Frank, just because I was so in the mood for Logan and Tate, and then I couldn't not read about Robbie. Like, I can't do one without the other. And then as soon as I finished reading those series, so many new releases that I'd been looking forward to came out. Like, we had Encore by Eden Finley, and then Psycho by Only James came out. Well, I think I got those around the wrong way, but that's the order that I read them in. And then we had Drilled by K.M. Newhold, the final book in the Four Bears Construction series, which I'm very sad to say goodbye to, but now I'm just happy that I can binge the whole thing without having to wait for the next book to come out. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about that either, because these will all be mentioned in my September wrap-up too. Anyway, I am going to go download Sync onto my Kindle, and I'll let you guys know when I get started on it. What you doing? Oh. Alright, it's a couple hours later. I'm about 20% of the way through Sync at the moment. I had to take a little bit of a break because I was helping out with Taekwondo over Zoom. I am enjoying the book so far. It hasn't like gripped me yet. The other thing that I'm very happy about, there already seems to be a little bit of possessiveness going on between our main characters, which I'm very keen for. Okay, so it's the same day, it's just a little bit later. It's maybe 11:15, and I am now 64% of the way through Sync. I don't know how I feel about it at the moment. It's fun. I am enjoying it. It feels really unrealistic. Okay, so I said that I would update you tomorrow, and I'm technically not wrong, because it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm probably like 75% of the way through the book at the moment. I've kind of started comparing it to a Wattpad novel, just because I feel like there's so many things happening that are just really unrealistic, and it's glossing over a lot of things. The main premise of this book is that Eli is hearing a voice in his head, and yet when he figures out who that voice is, he just accepts it. But wouldn't you question something like that, which is just really strange? We know that he has anxiety, but then it's just thrown in there that he's bipolar. That's it. It's just like I'm bipolar, moving on. Does not stop to talk about it at all. And then we barely cover his childhood trauma, which is the whole reason for his touch aversion. It alludes to what happened, but I feel like the characters never actually touch on it. And when they do, it's just like an implication that they've spoken about it, and that's it. Like, we don't really focus on how either of them deal with that individually or together, which I feel like is something that, if it's going to be such a prevalent part of the story, that Eli does not like being touched because of this reason, then when you're getting to the root of the problem, like the cause of everything, then you should probably elaborate a little bit more on that. Honestly, it's just reminding me of this Wattpad story that I've reread a couple of times. It's called Lunar Whispers. I forget who it's by, but like that whole one is a werewolf romance. When the werewolf finds their mate, they can hear each other's voices in their head, but one of the mates is a human, and so he thinks he's going insane when he hears his mate's voice in his head. And then, you know, like they finally meet and he realizes that maybe he's not actually wholly human, and I love it. It's like a 7-book series on Wattpad. If anyone has any other like Wattpad romances, please let me know. I love reading them. Like, some of them can be cringy as all hell, but I really don't care. Alrighty, it is a little bit later in the day now. I think it's almost 2 o'clock, and I'm a tad more coherent than I was first thing this morning, but I finished reading Sync when I woke up. I'm thinking that it's probably around a 3.5 for me, because it was still really enjoyable, and it's not like I was reading it and thinking, oh my god, just hurry up and get to the end. I wasn't fully absorbed into the story, but I was still kind of invested in where it would end up, if that makes sense. It felt like certain characters were introduced for the point of the story, and then were kind of forgotten about when they weren't relevant to the plot anymore, but then were reintroduced at the end of the novel, just so it didn't seem like they were forgotten while writing. While it was fun, it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't really what I was looking for. I was so excited before I delved into it yesterday, as you probably saw, but it's just not really what I expected. Okay, it is a lot later. I have picked a book and I'm currently 50% of the way through said book. So the book that I started reading is Scoring with Him by Lauren Blakely. Hi. Saying hi to the vlog. Basically, we're following Declan and Grant in this book, and they're both part of a Major League Baseball team. This is Declan's 5th year on the team. His major rule is never to hook up with another baseball player. Enter Grant, who this is his 1st year on a Major Leagues team, so he's the rookie. Instantly, him and Declan are just drawn to each other. There is so much sexual tension between them. I must just say though, this book has one of like the best first kiss scenes that I have read, and it's gotten me really excited to film a video that highlights some of the best first kiss scenes in MM romances. And like, I've already started writing a little list of the ones that I have read that I think the first kiss scenes are like impeccable. You're gonna cut in front again? Okay. Oh, I forgot like a major part of the plot. The whole thing is that they weren't going to act on this tension between them, right, until Declan finds out that Grant is still a virgin, and Grant wants Declan to be the one to rectify that. And so Declan's just like, you've posed me a challenge that I cannot say no to. Let's get down to business. All right, this isn't the greatest angle in the world, but I was having some thoughts on my book and I wanted to share them with you before I forgot them, because I have a bad habit of doing that. I have finished Scoring with Him. Shit, how have I already forgotten the name of the book? And let me just tell you, I knew that this was a trilogy going into it because I checked it out on Goodreads first, and I just assumed that like each book would follow a different couple. That is not the case. So I was reading this book last night and then again this morning, and we're getting to like 90% of the way through, and I'm like, so many things still haven't happened. Like, we don't know a lot of stuff. So many things haven't been resolved. I'm like, how are you going to finish a book in like less than 10%? And then we got to the final chapters and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a book 2. So I have since started book 2. Which is why I'm working out so late in the day, because I just could not put it down. So book 2 is Winning with Him. It picks up directly after book 1, and I must say I'm really enjoying it so far. This series is just so good. I did not expect to like it as much as I am. Let me just say, I cannot wait to get this workout out of the way, because I want nothing more than to pick this book up again. I finished book 2 and we are now on to book 3, which is also about Declan and Grant. Now, I think it might be just because I assumed it was a standalone that now we're on to book 3, I'm kinda over it. And like, do not get me wrong, I am really enjoying this series. I'm loving it. I love that it's not one of those, despite our circumstances, we came together with absolutely no consequences. Like, this is not one of those. This reads so real. Like, Declan and Grant are teammates on the same baseball team. If they get together, there are so many things that can go wrong. The consequences are just a little bit too great, you know? And so this trilogy is them kind of trying to fight their way back to one another, and it's beautiful watching them become ready for the kind of love that they were destined to have. Like, it's so beautiful to read. I'm about 40% of the way through book 3 at the moment, and I'm about to read a chapter that I've been dying for. This is the other reason I love my Apple Watch. I love to see what my heart rate is when I'm coming up to a stressful chapter. Oh my god! Okay, update time. It is now Saturday afternoon and I have finished All In With Him, which was the 3rd and final book in the Men of Summer series by Lauren Blakely. I really enjoyed it. Like, I definitely think me going into it thinking that it was just a standalone really had an impact on my general thoughts of the series as a whole. If I had have done a little bit more research and realized that it was a series, then I feel like my opinion, not that it would have been better, but I feel like the story felt almost as though it was dragging because I only expected it to be one book. It did turn into a bit of a second chance romance, which I did enjoy while I'm reading it, but second chance romances really just aren't my favorite thing to read. Overall, I did really enjoy reading this trilogy. It was so funny and flirty and witty and definitely sexy. You cannot like gloss over that. Declan and Grant were just amazing main characters. I loved seeing them come into themselves and then, you know, falling for each other all over again in almost every single book. I am going to attempt to sit down and write a Goodreads review about this series and then try and find another book to delve into. I did pick up one last night. What's it called? It was Ignite by Rebecca James, and it's supposed to be this whole friends to lovers, another second chance romance. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. It was also a bi awakening, fake relationships, and I started reading it and I'm just kind of like not really enjoying it. I just don't think the writing style is necessarily for me. It feels a little bit rushed and also just a little bit not young, but not as mature as some of the books that I've been reading recently. And so I think I might DNF that one and try and pick up another one that I've been looking forward to. So we'll see what that is. I'll update you guys in another reading vlog potentially. But for now, I will see you guys next week.